Hey guys, welcome back to Craigz, the YouTube channel where I talk everything horror. Now, if that sounds like your cup of tea, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, in today's video, I am going to be talking about Sinister, a horror movie that came out in 2012, which literally scared the pants off me. Now, I am a huge horror fan, and there aren't many horror films that truly scare me these days, but for some reason, when I first saw Sinister, I was completely creeped out. It's one of those few horror films that just terrifies me. And I've also spoken to quite a few people and friends who have seen Sinister, and they have said that they think that it's one of the most scariest films that they had seen in a very long time. So what is Sinister really about? Well, it's about a guy called Ellis who moves into a house with his family where a horrific murder has taken place. Now, Ellis knows about these murders and he's actually there to try and write a book and try and solve the crime and find the killer, but his wife and children, they have no idea about these murders. Now, he ends up finding a box in the attic with a load of these old style movie tapes, and when he sets it all up and plays them, he ends up seeing how each family was murdered. So not only the family in his house, but there's a bunch of other tapes in there dating back years with videos of other families being murdered, and it's really creepy and quite trippy as well. Now, the one thing that all of these murders have in common is that one of the children from each of these families have gone missing. But who left these murder boxes and these murder tapes? What does it all mean? And tell you what guys, we are then taking on a very dark journey in this movie with a pretty disturbing ending. Now, there is like some creepy demon guy called Bagul who we get to learn about as the movie goes on, and Bagul ends up popping up in one of those murder tapes, and actually this is when we first get to see Bagul for the very first time during the swimming pool murders, and I've gotta say I was seriously creeped out when I first saw Bagul. I think for me it was just the fear of not knowing what the hell was going on. Take away the Bagul demon just for a moment and we are then left with quite a realistic crime film feel, and it just gives me the creeps that there is someone out there filming families in the distance doing, every day-to-day things and stalking them and then entering their homes in the middle of the night and committing these murders. It feels very personal, very true, and very frightening, because this sort of thing does happen a lot in the real world, and I think that's why I get a little bit creeped out by this movie. Also, the trippy, horrible music that's used in each of these murder tapes is so friggin' creepy. In one of them, it sounds like that someone is doing some haunting chant while we're watching these murders. On top of that, there are actually kids being killed, in the murder tapes. So you may not actually see them being butchered, but it happens. So let's talk about these murder tapes. So you've got the one from the opening scene in the movie where an entire family are being hung from a tree with bags over their heads. Then there's a family who are being filmed from a distance at a lakeside, and next minute the whole family are all tied up inside a car that's been chained up as well, so they can't get out, and then the car is then set on fire. You've also got the pool murders where a family are tied to sun loungers and then dragged into the pool, and also this is the first time we get to see Bagul. There's one where there's a family that are being filmed, just in their house watching TV and doing what normal families do. Then it cuts to someone inside this family's home in the middle of the night, walking through the house, going upstairs, going into each bedroom and slicing each family member's throat, including a child. But the one that literally scared the crap out of me when I first saw it was the lawnmower tapes. Oh God. Honestly, This one was one hell of a jump scare that almost gave me a heart attack, because up until this point, none of the other murder tapes had any jump scares, so it completely caught me off guard. We basically see a lawnmower being used in the dead of night, mowing some grass while it's raining, and then all of a sudden the lawnmower goes over a person, and honestly, like I said, it almost gave me a heart attack and my heart was literally pounding. It's not just the murder tapes in this film that's creepy. There's some really creepy things happening inside Ellis's house. At one point, his son comes out of a cardboard box backwards and lets off these horrifying shrieks and squeals because he suffers with night terrors. There are moments in the movie where all of these missing kids from these murders, who, they are presumed dead, I'm assuming, but they're all walking around in Ellis's house in the middle of the night. It gets so messed up, and of course we then start learning about the history of Bagul and what he is all about, and something about like the eater, or eating children, something or other. I think what really works well in this movie too is the whole atmosphere and the creepy music that is used throughout the whole film. It's very dark, very trippy. Sometimes you feel like you're in a little bit of a trance, and it really does get inside your head. This horror movie did a really good job because, like I said, there aren't many horror films out there these days that really creep me out, but every now and again, something is released either in the cinema or on DVD that just blows your mind, and it makes you remember why you love horror films in the first place. So kudos to the whole makers of this movie for making such a good, scary film. By the end of this movie, it's revealed that the missing kids from each of these families, they are actually the killers in each of these murder tapes. So these kids, I think it's usually the youngest one in the family, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me, but basically one of the missing kids, they are the ones doing the videotaping and the murders, and then they are being taken into Bagul's weird reality world, and then these kids are then classed as missing, probably presumed dead, and this is what happens to Ellis by the end of this movie. Now, his daughter ends up killing him and the rest of the family, videotaping it all before Bagul picks up the daughter and takes her into his reality. It's so dark and twisted, but I absolutely love it. There's a really funny character in this movie to lighten the load just a little bit, and it's the deputy sheriff, who I think is referred to as Deputy So-and-so, and he is just comedy gold, who ends up helping Ellis throughout the movie, and I do believe that Deputy So-and-so is in the sequel. Now, I have seen the sequel once, a very long time ago, and I don't really remember much about it, but I do remember thinking it wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't as good as the first one. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is go back and rewatch the sequel, maybe on the weekend, and then come back and do a review on Sinister 2 next week. So all in all, a brilliant, dark, creepy horror film that really is up there in the true horror collection. It's definitely a film to bring out on Halloween if you really want to give your friends a good scare. So that's all of my thoughts on Sinister. Now I want to hear all of your thoughts. Let me know in the comments box below. Did this film creep you out when you first saw it? Also, did you see this film in the cinema or on DVD? I only ask this question because I watched it on DVD when I first saw it, and it still scared the pants off me. So I actually dread to think how scary it would have been to see this one in the cinema for the very first time. So let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below. Okay guys, well that's all I have for you today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, stay safe, and I'll see you again very soon.